probably just saved several lives, including, by the way, the life of Essa Suleiman, who's since been arrested and charged with attempted murder because the armed police were on the way, and had he not been subdued, who knows what would have happened. What on earth was going through your head when you retweeted that? I know you've apologized, but how did you get to that place?
I think you can both recognise the bravery of officers who run towards incidents that most of us, including myself, would certainly want to run away from, and find the appropriate forum to say that no one, especially the police, should be above scrutiny. The reason why I've apologised is I accept that wasn't the appropriate forum. As a member of the London Assembly, a place I know you know well, the Police and Crime Committee would be an appropriate place, or indeed a meeting with the Commissioner, which I'm pleased I've reached out and he's now agreed to. I do also think, by the way, open letters aren't an appropriate way to do politics either in a local election, but I accept all of that and I'll be having that conversation with the Commissioner.
But you chose X to do this, and I'm just curious, what prompted you to look at this message and to repost it? You can say you didn't endorse it and so on, but you made a choice to do this. And I'm just curious, what thought process led you to do that?
Well, the first thing I did was recognise that this was a horrific crime, and I showed solidarity to the victims and their families. I then thanked the emergency responders for the brave work they did. I found it all very traumatic, especially as a Jewish person, and I also found the video that was circulating online traumatic too. I accept, though, that conversation about that video needs to be had with the Commissioner rather than on X.
You made a mistake, presumably, because you were traumatised then.
Well, you generally apologise when you make mistakes for putting that in the wrong forum. It should be something I take directly to the Commissioner, and I accept that.
Were you trying to reframe this as a case of police brutality, so we didn't have the debate that it's going to have to take place about this being a straightforward case of anti-Semitism with no political defence to it?
No.
It's still very hard then to understand why you felt you had to intervene with some random tweet.
Well, the Commissioner
let me just add one thing. It's hard to understand it in any other way, given that your own party has some trouble with anti-Semitism. 2 of your candidates have been arrested this week. Is it the case that you basically wanted this not to be about anti-Semitism, but let's make it about the police?
I've already said no. It's also important to point out that a Muslim man was stabbed as well as 2 Jewish men, and that seems to have not been in the news coverage. The Commissioner as well, in this very studio, accepted that this was an unusual use of police force within this incident. Now, I think there's a conversation that he's had about...
I don't think he did accept it as an unusual use.
He said it was unusual. That was what he said in the...
He said the incident was unusual, but I don't think it was an unusual use of force in the context.
He said the response was unusual, and that's a conversation I want to have with the Commissioner. I've said that X isn't the appropriate forum. I don't think the media is the appropriate forum either.
You've raised the issue of Muslims. Let me put this to you. 3/4 of the terrorist threats we know come from Islamists, according to the security service. Fiaz Mughal, the founder of Tel Mama, which is the government-backed group monitoring hate against Muslims, says in the papers this morning, in a national paper this morning, that politicians haven't spoken, including the Prime Minister, about what he calls the elephant in the room that has Muslim anti-Semitism written across it. He goes on to say that while the vast majority of Muslims are an asset to our country, unless we have a root and branch rejection of Muslim anti-Semitism, calls for commiserations with British Jews are futile. Do you agree?
I think it's the opposite of what we should be doing. I think blaming an entire community based on what one person...
He's not blaming an entire community. He is referring to Muslim anti-Semitism, Islamism, as other people call it. And he says, unless we recognise that, calls for commiserations with British Jews are futile. He's not accusing a whole community. Do you agree with him?
I think what we need to do right now is de-escalate tensions. I think we need interfaith work. I think we need to bring people together. That sounds like the opposite of that.
Former head of the Equality and Human Rights Commission wrote yesterday the following: when members of the Muslim community commit violence against Jewish people for simply being Jewish, there are no mosque vigils or prayers, no loud hailers condemning perpetrators. To their shame and mine, Muslims in Britain appear entirely alienated from the plight of Jews when attacked. This silence speaks volumes. Do you understand her anger? She is a Muslim.
I think those are inflammatory comments. I think some of the work that I'm proudest of when I see in London is when imams and rabbis stand together side by side and say that attack on one is an attack on all, and together Jewish and Muslim people will stand in solidarity. I think that's the sort of leadership that we need right now, people standing up and working together in unity, not reaping further division.
So the point